Welcome to the Love Letters to Our Bodies podcast. I'm your host, Gwen Mitchell, founder and CEO of Moyo Institute and lifelong spiritual seeker and energy worker. Here for thoughtful conversations about health, healing, and happiness by, for, and about Black and African American women. Disclaimer, the Love Letters to Our Bodies podcast does not provide medical advice. The opinions, experiences, and insights shared are for informational purposes only. Nothing shared in this podcast is intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. Don't disregard or delay seeking it because of what you've heard on this podcast. Thank you. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, thank you so much for joining us for the Love Letters to Our Bodies podcast today. I'm Gwen Mitchell, your host, and I'm happy to be joined today with Sherry Steine. Sherry Steine is an accredited yoga teacher and a trauma-informed yoga therapist in residence. She's a breathwork and meditation specialist and certified aromatherapist dedicated to supporting whole person healing for individuals navigating cancer and recovery. Through her work with Hope Connections for Cancer Support and Innova Life with Cancer, she provides compassionate, evidence-informed practices that help participants regulate their nervous system, manage stress, and reconnect with a sense of safety and vitality in their bodies. Her integrative approach blends therapeutic yoga, guided breathwork, meditation, and clinical aromatherapy to create accessible wellness experiences that honor each person's physical and emotional journey. Her work has been recognized by the International Association of Yoga Therapy, and she's a finalist for the Give Back Yoga Seva Award with that association. Congratulations. And she's a recent recipient of the Phenomenal Woman Award for her contributions to cancer care. Known for her grounded presence and culturally attuned perspective, Sherry empowers individuals and caregivers with practical tools for rest, resilience, and renewal, helping them cultivate steadiness, comfort, and hope throughout the healing process. I'm very impressed just reading your bio, so thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Well, thank you. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here.
So yes, why don't we start by having you share with us a bit of your journey into becoming a certified aromatherapist. I thought that was quite interesting in your bio about clinical aromatherapy and your therapeutic yoga teacher specializing in cancer care.
Wow. Okay. Definitely. My journey, I'll start with aromatherapy first because that was first personally, in me getting involved in aromatherapy and using essential oils for myself, for my own personal care. And I started out about 12 years ago, just being a part of an MLM, a multi-level marketing group that was selling essential oils. And at that time, I was in a different career, and one of my clients had these oils on her table when I was visiting her, and she began to tell me about them and what they were about. And so I joined this MLM and started selling essential oils and using them for myself. And then in the last several years, I really became a little frustrated with it because of the fact that the MLM system and selling wasn't working for me. I like to be authentic about what I'm doing. I'd like to know what I'm selling, what it does, what it doesn't do, how does it really help people, how does it really help me, and decided I was going to go back to school and become an aromatherapist. And I am so glad I did. I studying for about a year understanding what the oils do, using them myself, really kind of digging in and figuring out what is this all about. And I learned so much. I learned things that no one else normally tells you about essential oils. So I decided to keep that. And in the meantime, I'm a multitasker. Okay. So I tend to do a lot of things at the same time. I guess it's just the Gemini in me. But around the same time, had an opportunity to get a scholarship to teach yoga. So I went to teacher training, got my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And then I said, I think I want to keep going with this. So I went back and got my 300 hours. So I did additional 300 hours. And that's how I got my 500-hour yoga teacher training. And so I'm a registered yoga teacher at 500 hours. And I learned in the second round of my advanced training more about Ayurveda, learned more about therapeutic yoga teaching, not just teaching yoga, not just understanding what yoga is, just really getting into how does it really help people from emotional to physical. And then from there, I decided I wanted to move forward and become a yoga therapist. And that's another so many hours. So that's a total is like 800 hours of training, and I'm about 2 months away from getting my certification as a yoga therapist. I'm in practicum now, as you mentioned, in residence. And I absolutely love it. So, what I've done is, in essence, paired the two modalities, the aromatherapy and the yoga therapy, for my way of working with individuals on so many levels. And as it pertains to cancer in particular, I was fortunate to have a friend who was working with Hope Connections for Cancer, Bethesda, Maryland. And she wanted to move on and do more yoga with young people. In conversation with her, I learned of this opening. So I said, hey, if you're leaving, if there's an opportunity, I would love to work with these individuals. And long story short, I was hired, and I do both yin yoga and restorative yoga for that population. And it's become a really beautiful community. I never thought I would be working with individuals with cancer. Cancer runs in my own family. I just lost a dear cousin several months ago to breast cancer. My mother died from cancer. So I do know it's very personal to me. And after several months working with recovering cancer individuals, particularly mostly women, I just decided that that's where I wanted to work and that's what I wanted to do.
Great, great. It's interesting to hear you describe that therapeutic aspect because so much in the West, so much of the understanding of yoga, I think, is like as a physical exercise or just a way to strengthen the body or to stretch and what have you. And so the fact that you are taking it in the direction of therapeutic training, I think is really wonderful.
Well, thank you. I think part of what people are beginning to realize is that there's yoga teaching, right? Which is teaching stress management, group classes, resilience, muscle alignment, all of those things. And then there's yoga therapy, which is
Hmm.
more one on one, more deeply intentional, more about how do we help these individuals regain strength, get the resilience that they want, but take it even further to emotional wellness as well. And that was the part that really got me, was that it makes, for me, the yoga practice more purposeful and meaningful for me to work and to work with other professionals, because it is an integrative health practice which can be integrated with other wellness professionals as well.
Wonderful. So you describe yourself as creating restorative spaces where clients, particularly women of color, can safely unwind, reset, and feel deeply seen and supported. How
Mm.
does your approach center cultural attunement and address race-based stress in cancer care?
That's a lovely question. The work that I do, because I'm an African American woman and identify as so, that there are certain nuances that we deal with as a culture, as a people, as women, that others don't. With the cancer care in particular, I watched my mother pass on because she didn't get the care and the level of care that she needed. I'm seeing improvement now, but when it comes to health, hospitals, medical facilities, there's always been a little bit different treatment than others. So we have that. The other thing is understanding from a cultural perspective what this means and how we manage it and how we can work with it. So when I'm working with individuals of color, women in color, I am very, very responsive to understanding the nervous system and that there is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, right?
Mhm,
And we have lived experiences in sympathetic nervous system for most of our lives and
mhm.
understand that it will take maybe a little more therapeutic experience in order to bring us down to that parasympathetic piece. And what I have found, and others have found, for example, that restorative yoga in particular is the yoga approach that works best with racialized trauma.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for that. The sympathetic is that fight flight response and
Mhm.
always being on guard and, having to be in a society where you're constantly judged by standards that and biases what have you. So being able to rest, being able to go into that parasympathetic part of the nervous system where you get restoration and you
Right.
have an opportunity to allow your body to heal is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me, for listeners who may be new to aromatherapy,
Mhm.
how essential oils support cancer patients during treatment and recovery? I was especially interested in your comment about really learning what the oils do and how they affect the body and share a little bit of that with us.
Sure.
And especially, any significant benefits that you've witnessed.
Mm. Yeah. So, one of the things about cancer is there's a lot of different effects to chemotherapy, radiation treatments. Just getting the diagnosis of cancer can really send individuals into, a panic, stress, insomnia, all of those things, and self esteem, depression. So, essential oils typically can work with all of these different things, nausea after treatments, having nausea. So, there are many essential oils that can work with those specific situations, but they have to be carefully diluted, they have to be clean. And what I mean by clean is understanding where they're harvested from, that they don't have pesticides or anything like that. They're not diluted or contaminated in any way. So they have to be 100% pure and they have to be coming from a reputable source. Okay. So there's oils like lavender is one of the most studied oils in aromatherapy research. So, lavender is one of the big ones, some of the citrus oils. So, basically, with working with oils, is understanding how can we work with them without compromising the nervous system without contradicting various therapies, medications, and so forth. And it could be something as simple as sniffing a cotton ball with a little bit of essential oil, not much, that an individual can smell before going into their treatment, for example, to calm the nervous system if they're upset or a little fragile and so forth. It could be actually diffusing essential oils in your environment, no more than 20 to 30 minutes at a time, where some people will diffuse them all day long. I don't recommend that. But putting a couple of drops of essential oil in a diffuser in your home environment is wonderful. Also, actually being able to use various lotions or creams, if it's permissible, can be very helpful too. Actually putting it on your palm and doing this and then cupping your face, and just inhaling is really helpful as well. So there are a lot of studies that have proven, and there's still more. I've heard about foot baths, for example, putting oils diluted into foot baths that can help alleviate, issues and concerns those may have as well.
I want to digress for a moment because you said something that touched on a personal experience.
Okay.
So, they make these diffusers, for instance. I have one in my home that you can time for 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, and just fill the water up to a certain level and put in like 10 drops of so you're saying that doing that for those hours is not a good idea?
No, because your olfactory system, this is the system that allows you to smell, right? It
Hmm.
links to so many things, particularly your limbic system. Let me step back for a minute. Essential oils are really awesome plant medicine, okay?
Hmm.
They are
Hmm.
made from the leaves, the flowers, and all of those great things from various herbs and flowers and plants. And they're distilled, and that whole process still creates a level of toxicity. So
Okay.
essential oils are very, very toxic. That doesn't mean they're not good for us, but they are. And you have to respect them for what they can do if used properly. And, a couple of things is, one is diffusion. Diffusion, this shocked me too. But what I learned is that for any amount of time that you're using a diffuser, it should be no more than 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And I
Okay.
know a lot of these diffusers I have one too, where it's timed, and that's better than nothing. What it does, it just overloads the body system with
Hmm.
the oil, and it just becomes, what can I say, knows your system is overloaded and it no longer works effectively the way it should. So you really want to be careful of that. And a lot of people are shocked. I'm glad you asked that question because this is the kind of education I give people in workshops and so forth, is don't overload your system with an essential oil. And when it comes to essential oils, less is more. So
Hmm.
when you put oils in your diffuser, no more than 2 or 3 drops is good enough. A lot of times people say, oh, just put 5 or 6. And a lot of essential oil companies may even market that way. Well, why do they market that way? Because they want you to buy more oils, right?
Hmm.
Because next thing
Hmm.
you know, you're going to be out of that oil and you got to buy again.
Hmm.
So less is more. It's always
Okay.
better more. And
Great.
for those that are navigating cancer recovery, 1 drop for
Hmm.
for that, because their systems are sensitive and
Hmm.
you don't want to contradict and overload.
Okay. So thank you for that. I'm gonna throw out my diffuser.
No, don't do that. just use it.
Just time it right.
Yeah, just time it for 20, 30 minutes and you'll get what you need out of it, you know?
Exactly.
You definitely
Exactly.
will.
Okay, okay. So now there's sometimes confusion about what essential oils can and cannot do in cancer care. I
Mhm.
like the examples that you gave in terms of really helping to quiet the nervous system as you're getting ready to go into like radiation therapy or chemotherapy or something like that. Are there other things that you would say about that?
The other thing is that there's a lot of anxiety around having cancer, recovery, fear, and there are various essential oils that can help manage those emotions. Sandalwood, lavender again, some of the citrus oil, maybe bergamot, for example, is a good one. And to inhale those whenever you're feeling anxious or scared or what have you helps the emotion and the nervous system. The other thing is nausea. Nausea is an issue. There are oils that can work with that. Sleep, insomnia, not being able to sleep. And here's an example of how to use a diffuser, diffuse a particular oil, Roman camel, just say, I'll throw that out there, for about 30 minutes before you go to bed.
Repeat the name?
Roman chamomile.
Okay.
Roman chamomile, sandalwood, let me see, neroli, I'm trying to think of another one. It's bergamot. Those are really good oil, lavender, good oils for sleep. Okay. To
Hmm.
calm the nervous system and bring yourself into sleep. So even putting one or two drops in your diffuser, diffuse it for 30 minutes before you go to sleep. And then you will have an aromatic experience in that space that will help calm the nervous system down, induce sleep. So those are, a couple of other ways that these oils can help with navigating cancer recovery. Mhm.
Hmm. I see also that you trained in oil alchemy and aroma point therapy, combining both essential oils with acupressure. Can
Mhm.
you walk us through what this looks like in practice and how it supports emotional and physical healing for cancer patients?
Sure. Now, the best way I find that you can ground yourself using this methodology, this moda. So basically, if you think about it, there's a thing called acupressure, right? So acupressure is placing a hand on an acupressure point, and it comes from the Eastern tradition of acupuncture, acupressure.
Hmm.
Also in the East Indian tradition, there's what they call marma therapy, which is the same thing. There's just a certain number of marma points, right? So for cancer patients, there's a couple things that before I go into it that has to be realized or looked into, is what is the kind of reaction is it going to have on the skin, even if it's diluted. So that's a factor. The other thing is understanding specifically what are the needs, what is the goal, what is it that you need from the process? So, one of the things that I think is just an excellent way to work with these acupoints and the oils is the feet. And why do I say the feet? The feet is the strongest skin surface. The bottom of the feet is the strongest skin surface. You can't go wrong with that. You can't mess up with that. You can't have a bad reaction with the bottom
Hmm.
of it because that's the toughest skin is right there, right?
Hmm.
So there's a point called kidney 1, which is right at the bottom of the foot between the big toe and the toe next to it. Okay.
Hmm.
And if you go down at least 2 finger widths from that little in between point, that's where kidney 1 is. And you can always find it because there's a little divot there. So if you put 1 drop of vetiver oil, for example, vetiver, it's a very grounding oil. It doesn't have a strong smell or anything like that. and probably 2 drops of some kind of carrier oil, such as olive oil, such
Mhm.
as coconut oil, or sesame oil, or any of the oils. Some of them may
Mhm.
be found in your kitchen. You put that and you place that on your fingertip. Place your hand right at that point and leave it there for approximately 3 minutes. And you inhale through the nose and exhale out and keep doing that. And
Mhm.
then you're going to feel a little bit of a shift in your body. It's going to be very subtle. You might feel a little throbbing. That's when you know it's done. And then
So,
release. Do that on both feet.
mhm.
Okay. And it's an excellent way to ground your energy.
The Love Letters to Our Bodies podcast is sponsored by Moyo Institute Incorporated, a nonprofit organization offering heart-centered educational experiences, and the Lloyd Symington Foundation, which supports visionary grassroots cancer programs. Mhm.
Ground your energy. Mhm.
Is it because it's kidney one point? Is it also supporting the kidneys?
Yes.
Okay. So, like even people who have like diabetes or,
Mhm.
kidney issues or whatever, they might
That's a
want to
good
try
way.
that as well too.
And now there's a lot of other ways, but if you're just getting started, that would be like the first thing I would do is start playing with that.
Hmm.
And also, it helps you be able to identify where these points are, because a lot of times we can't figure out where they are, you know. But kidney one is one of those points that it's easy to find. It's a great beginner's practice.
Hmm.
And then you practice it so you can kind of get into your body and say, oh, I felt a little bit of a change in my system. I'm
Hmm.
not sure what it is, but you don't leave it there no more than 3 minutes. And sometimes, like for me, I've been, practicing a lot and, for quite a while. I'll feel it in after 1 minute on these points. Also, like on the wrist,
Hmm.
there are various points, pericardium, that's dealing with the heart. There are different points that you can use on there. But again, the wrist is a good place to really test oils on the outer skin outside of the foot. But I would go with the foot first. And
Hmm.
then depending on how that goes, and speaking with your doctor as well, that you want to work with various essential oils as part of your regimen, and then have a qualified aromatherapist, talk to the doctor. And this is where we talk about integrative medicine and having a team, doctors on board. You have a qualified aromatherapist, a qualified yoga therapist, and all of them are working together and helping create change.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I really love the integrative approach. In fact, in our Love Letters to Our Bodies workshops, we introduce people to various holistic therapies that they can research on their own and try out. And we work very closely with the local clinic here in the Bay Area that gives free integrative therapy treatments to women who are going through cancer. So,
Mm,
that's great. So, as a cancer care therapeutic yoga specialist completing your certified yoga therapist designation,
mhm.
how do you design yoga practices that are sensitive to the unique needs or bodies in treatment or recovery?
Mm. So, what I teach are 2 different modalities in yoga therapy. One is yin yoga. Yin yoga is a fairly new type of yoga. It's been around maybe about maybe 40 years. And this yoga is about deep stretching and holding poses for at least, anywhere from 5, sometimes 10 minutes, depending on what the pose is. That's more of a really deep stretching. The second is restorative yoga, which is just what it says. It's restoring the body. They're restful shapes. Okay. In that world, it's all about shapes. In yin, it's about poses or asanas, I should say. So, yin yoga and restorative yoga provides an opportunity for those who are in recovery to stretch their bodies and work with what we call fascia, particularly
Mhm.
in the yin yoga tradition. Fascia is that underlayer that holds the organs. And when you stretch them, you are providing what we call energetic pathways to the major organs of the body. So it's like
Mhm.
this light that's traveling in through this veil of tissue, and it helps to nourish our various organs. Okay.
Mhm.
Also, what it does is fascia is where we hold our emotions. So you're working with two different things there. So when you're stretching the body, you're making it stronger. You're working with the lymph. You're working with resilience, getting the body to really grow stronger after your therapies. And it also helps you be able to manage stress, anxiety, all those other things that one may go through. Also, with range of motion, being able to lift your arms up
Mhm.
and exhale, bring them down. Learn how to breathe properly, meditate, how to really get more interested in not only just interested, I think more of a relationship with your body. Okay. So it's more about
Mhm.
interoception as well as proprioception. How is my body moving in space? How is my body feeling on the inside? And what yin yoga does in particular, it helps us come to our edge, right? So
Yeah.
you're really moving in such a way, how far can I go without,
Yeah.
but there's choice in all of that. And then with the restorative, you're just really resting and understanding that rest is part of our superpower as well. And how
Mhm.
can we rest without, harm? So when I teach, I have been through cancer recovery teaching, yoga teaching. So there's certain positions that I know not to bring people into, and there's other positions that help strengthen the body. So I am going to be working with individuals, or I work with individuals using the right kinds of positioning and poses. And we also use blocks, yoga blocks. We use cushions, bolsters, anything to help support the body in these positions as well. So there's certain times that not to do forward folds, not to do a lot of twisting or things like that if it's going to affect the body. So, and understanding and knowing what the scar tissue, the surgeries, the treatments, and all of those things, how do those affect the body, and how do I work with those situations to be able to put people into poses that are going to be healthy for them. So it takes a
Mhm.
special kind of training. A yoga teachers that don't necessarily understand this unless they've just learned on their own may not know that. That makes me different, for example, than from a teacher to a therapist. Mhm.
Yeah, and actually, I attended a yin yoga class for the first time about 10 days ago, and I
Oh,
decided it's going to be my new practice. I really love it, you
yeah,
know.
it's addicting. It really is.
Yes, yes. And especially after doing these like intense workouts that really put a lot of stress on the heart, it's something that I felt very restored by just being able to lean into these stretches and
Mm.
hold these positions. So let me just say that I know that in our workshops, when we talk to women about their experiences, that many cancer patients feel disconnected from their bodies after surgery, and
Mhm.
particularly breast cancer, where their breasts, as some women describe them as having been mutilated. How does therapeutic yoga help women to rebuild the relationship with their bodies?
Mm, I like that question. The thing that I do, I like for my students to cultivate love for themselves. So that's the first thing. How do we cultivate? And I also allow them to make their own intentions and goals for the practice. The practice itself provides them an opportunity to experience. And I ask them, if we're doing a twist or if we're working on one side, stretching one side versus another, notice. What do you notice? Maybe one side, does one side feel differently than the other? So we begin to really cultivate a culture in the classes that it's important to really notice, how does your body feel in this? How does it feel in that? And I let them know they're beautiful. I let them know that, and I if I see, I teach mostly online. So I can see individuals in different poses. And some of them have come back and said to me, I had a young lady said she was having some concerns about her psoas, for example. And she said within a month after we worked together, her psoas was fine. Her doctor was really pleased with the way it's going. So I do it in such a way that I ask them to take note of their bodies, how they're feeling, and I give them choice. So, in other words, if a pose is not working from them, there's no judgment. And I don't sit there and say, you're doing this wrong or doing that wrong. I ask them, and also meditation. Meditation is big because you can really relax the body. So the thing that I get when I work with them and when they come back to me, they're always talking about they can't wait. They have to be in that class because they
Beautiful.
feel so much better when they come out and they can go to sleep. They feel good about themselves. In other words, and then we have fun. Fun.
Yes.
And one of the things that we just started doing is a pajama night. We do yoga in our pajamas.
Hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. Very innovative and creative. And I love what you said by giving them a choice and being very intentional in terms of what they want to get out of a session, rebuilding that connection and restoring that relationship with the body. You integrate the wisdom from Ayurvedic traditions, from traditional Chinese medicine and Jyotish astrology in your practice.
Yeah.
How do these ancient systems enhance the healing journey for the modern cancer patients?
Mm, that's a beautiful question. So Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. It is thousands of years old, just like yoga is. And it is more the system of self-preservation, self-healing, and it's proactive lifestyle. So it's everything from eating, everything from what you put into your body as well as what you get out of your body. So it's understanding what your constitution is. It's understanding wisdom of what they call the ancient Vedic system. And it really can provide, and there's a lot more research going on right now to, as a matter of fact, I'm a member of the Society of Oncology, Integrative Oncology, and I'm on a committee that's looking at how does Ayurveda help with cancer. So there's a lot of different research going on out there about that. I
That's
believe,
great.
yeah, I believe that eating certain foods in accordance
Mhm.
to what your constitution is, which is what they call your dosha. You can
Mhm.
be one of three, or you can be two out of three. And understanding that helps rebalance the system. See, cancer in Ayurveda is looking at, it says that you are imbalanced in one of the doshas. So you have to eat, you have to do certain types of movement exercises and things. There's a circadian clock, so to speak, that
Mhm.
works with that. That's how that works. Also, with Ayurveda, there's one concept called abhyanga. Yeah, abhyanga, which is self massage. So that's an opportunity to move lymph, right? And to, if a particular person can do this, they can do self massage. And there's certain
Mhm.
oils. This is where aromatherapy comes in, where certain oils come in, herbal oils that can be used to move the lymph system just by self massage, for example. Supplements as well. And with the Vedic astrology, which is something that I'm really excited about because I just put out a book about Vedic astrology and aromatherapy.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I'll send you some information about that. But with Vedic astrology, it's not like the Western astrology, it's the sidereal. So it is really looking at the moon sign, whereas in Western astrology, we're focused on the sun sign. So, for example, I'm a Gemini and sun, but I am a Taurus and moon. So, when I'm looking at my chart, it is based on the date, the time you were born, your location, and where that moon was in the sky at the time you were born.
Mhm.
Based on that one snapshot, determines your whole life path from what we call dasha periods, 10, 15-year periods where you will go through certain things based on the planetary assignments given to you at birth. And what are some of the so-called moon deities that rule your sign as well? And understanding those dynamics. And there are various things that happen in your life. It just gives you a map of that 12 houses and what each of those houses mean and how you can improve your life based on what the astrology is. So it's not kind of predicting this is bad or good. It's saying this is what your map looks like. We know something may be coming up. Let's do what we can to prevent that in advance, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's great because I think one of the reasons I was really interested in speaking with you is because you're studying so many things that touch into areas that I've had both interest and experience in over the years. Like I've been to India about 16 times and and have integrated in the courses that we teach in the love letters to our bodies. We teach mudras to help women, deal with building their energy, pranayama and mudras to
Mhm.
restore their energy, to help assimilate medications, to deal with anxiety. And so, yeah, these felt very, very aligned. And I guess I also know that in the Vedic astrology, the Jyotish astrology, I'm a Pisces compared to being an Aries in the Western one.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you've had
exactly.
I'll have to share with you the book because since you have had some experience with that and understanding the transits and the dasha periods and all of
Hmm.
that, that's where we integrate aromatherapy blends and things that we can use to kind of help us through the Rahu periods or some, Saturn returns and those kinds of things. So
Hmm.
it's very interesting work.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so fascinating to me at this point in life is how finally we're getting, or I should speak in the first person, finally, at this late stage in life, I'm getting like a sort of a comprehensive understanding of the system of life, the
Yes.
system, where we fit in it and how we fit in it, and what are the influences and the factors that contribute to our experience. And so it's so important and it's so helpful in terms of moderating well-being, right? But
And
even just the body, like how to feed the body properly, the
mhm,
doshas, for instance, there's so the relationship between your blood pressure and whether or not you're dehydrated. I mean,
mhm.
just these kinds of things. And so I feel like our educational system has a lot of areas for improvement for earlier points in life so that people can be healthier, you know,
Yes.
embody well-being.
It's so beautiful how you just stated that because that's how I felt as someone in her 50s and studying this. And I'm like, wow, if I had a known this
Hmm.
20, 30 years ago, a lot of things that I have experienced with my body would have been cultivated in a different way. And I really believe in Ayurveda. I believe in that system and really am dedicated to sharing that with whoever is willing to listen.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, as we're coming to the end of the hour, I
Mhm.
think this means that we're going to have a second conversation a little bit later. But what would you say to someone who's hesitant to try aromatherapy or yoga because they feel it might be too woo-woo or not evidence-based enough?
Mm, wow. I would say that we have been given a lot of opportunities to do things, to experience things that are really great for our health. And you never know until you try what you may or may not like. And I also believe that trying something as little as breath work, maybe it's not the whole enchilada, maybe it's not the whole yoga thing. Let's maybe try some breath work.
Hmm.
And then we might try a little bit of movement. Maybe it's just moving the shoulders.
Hmm.
These are things that's yoga,
Hmm.
you know? And then, start moving to other things. Like a lot of people are afraid to try yin. But
Mm.
it's beautiful that you just said, you tried it and it just was amazing. I think
Yeah.
it's we're in the season, as we grow older, we're in the Vata season, right?
Hmm.
When you look at the whole lifespan of an individual, there's various times, seasons in our lives that we are, exuding the doshas, even though we have our own individual doshas. And a lot of opportunities to try things, to understand things. As we grow older, just doing something simple, starting small, and then gradually get into things even.
Beautiful.
Mhm. That's what I would say.
Hmm. I have a friend who has a cat, and I sent her a diffuser for Christmas.
Mhm.
And she told me she couldn't use it because her would be affected by the essential oils. Do you know of
That
cautions
is,
for pets?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, pets, first of all, essential oils, again, is toxic. You really shouldn't diffuse around pets, and you really shouldn't use them if you're pregnant.
Okay.
Unless you are working with a doctor, and I think it's like the certain trimesters, you definitely shouldn't be using it. And there's certain oils you shouldn't even use at all. But yes, for pets, yes, it is a detriment. Now, I do know someone who has a cat, and the essential oils don't even bother the cat. So you have to kind of play with that. And then children, making sure
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing these things around children, and making sure that you store your oils properly and away from children and pets. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And my one takeaway for today, for my own personal life, is going to be to 20 minutes max on that diffuser. You know? But this has been such a beautiful conversation, and I've learned so much, and I know our listeners have learned a lot. I love your method of teaching and
Oh,
sharing what you've learned yourself and what you're prepared now to give to the world. So I really would like to continue this dialogue and see if there are other ways that we can collaborate. And
I would love that. I would love that. I'm open to it. So let's do that. Let's arrange some time to talk again
Mhm.
and dive deeper. If there's ways that I can help or what have you, I would love to do that. This is my passion, and this is where I believe spirit is guiding me to go to. So thank you so much. This has been an
Beautiful,
awesome
beautiful.
conversation.
We're going to leave your contact information in the show notes and also the information about your book. So just whatever you want to share, any additional things that you want me to share there, just make sure that I have access to them, and I'll make
Sure.
sure that our listeners get them as well. So Sherry Steine, wow, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your wisdom, your insights, your knowledge, your beautiful soul with our listeners today. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
That's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to Love Letters to Our Bodies, conversations on health, healing, and happiness. To find out more about the Love Letters to Our Bodies project, visit our website at moyoinstitute.org. That's MOYO Institute.org. Follow us on social media and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. If there are topics you'd like for us to discuss, let us know. Remember, your body is beautiful, girlfriend. Love it.